Exactly. So,
All right, number one, I love this discussion of ARPA funds to be placed in highway capital plan project. Now, at our last meeting, we talked about taking the balance of the ARPA money that hadn't been devoted to County Road 28 and devoting that to County Road 28, but that didn't, that trial balloon didn't go over that well, town board meeting, so.
oh,
We do have though, Jim. Well, I don't going to talk about it here, but we do have. Money can be used for in other areas. In one area that we have some large expenses coming from, or will be coming from. Is replacing some drainage.
I'm logged in, so if you got.
Oh, are ya?
Stuff, it's not.
Under Seneca Point Road. One of the items, the first one Jim identified, we talked about it before in here is about 250, 300 grand what it was. To
You're
replace
saying-
that whole concrete.
okay, wow. Never mind. Anyways, I'll have to,
You scare out. What are you looking for?
that's one of those, my photos.
Oh.
But it's fine. Well, we have a concrete box culvert on Second Point Road. It's been in the ground 60, 70 years,
Yeah, you said like somewhere in your late 40s, maybe early
Yeah.
50s.
somewhere around there. It's 1938. It was installed, but the head wall is falling off the front of it. And the the roof, we'll call it, is the rebar is exposed and there's some holes starting to show and there's other issues going on with it. It's not gonna fall apart today, but it's a project that probably should have some money going towards it in the very near future. That's one of two culverts on that road.
There's
The other one's up closer to 21, and that was a repair that was not necessarily a repair, more of a get you by type thing that we did back in 2004 or 5.
Right around 2005.
So the exit or discharge of the pipe falls into a big concrete box. Well, it's too steep, and the sides of the ground are all collapsed into the gully. So what we need to do is basically move the whole concrete structure and pipe and put it in correctly.
Where is this on something?
About a half mile down from 21.
Kind of near where the gully comes in.
Yeah, so they come down, you know, that fill spot you have on the left there, so you go down that dip, it's there, it's about 100 feet, and it's got about a 40-foot drop, maybe 30-foot drop.
one of those fairly close to that area where we have store stone and stuff. like
Yeah,
that.
that's the area. I
That's
was
right there.
contemplating, yeah.
Just
yeah,
down from
Yeah.
Kathy.
Yeah.
what's her name, Culture.
God, I can't get Dave down here tonight.
So that would be the,
Just stop the meeting, you want to get up the video. You don't have to just your picture to speak.
so that would be the alternative for the art month to use it. toward-
Well, I
some
have
sort of project.
It's
so
not something
that
that we
would
budgeted for next
for
year.
next year, that
But it's something that needs to be done. But it's one of those we just kick down the road for a number of years. And
so,
it'd be a good place to use the balance of. Well, you don't really have a firm number on what it would be, but in that area.
well, the concrete box culvert, no.
Yeah, so one of the things we kind of talked about, maybe doing like a little bit of feasibility, limited feasibility study. Figure out what's the best thing to do with that culvert. The box culvert that Jim was first talking about, it's exceptionally long box culvert. What you say it was like 120 feet long.
Yeah, that's pretty wide.
That's really, really long for a box culvert. Not. No, 120 feet.
No, but it's
It's an
6
8 by
20-foot sections, yeah.
Yeah, it's an 8x8, box,
Mhm.
120 feet long. It's not a standard box.
Right.
So I'd like to, maybe explore some options, there might be a potential for like a structural rehab in place. But I have not seen them do squares, they normally do round. So I don't know if the geometric differences make a difference in their rating. And then I'd like to explore potentially opening it up to a span,
Mhm.
dropping in abutments and doing a short span. Some of the issues that that culvert has, which is typical in that part of the town, is that the gully washes a lot of chaff down, and that chaff has a tendency to kind of blind off the inlet, and it causes restrictions, so you can see it, from some of the stuff that Jim was kind of poking around through.
So I'm looking.
But if you would went to a span bridge, it would open right up and then all this was just passed through, right? You would
And this has been going on for a
have a
while.
choke point where you're causing it to settle out.
To.
So,
Greg is
um,
the shallowest.
And then obviously looking at other structural boxes, but the other part too that makes it difficult is that that culvert has about 20 foot of overburden on it.
Yeah,
So it's extremely deep and extremely long.
What's
dirt.
Yeah, so the road is like the center line of the road where your tire is almost 20 feet above the box culvert.
a lot of weight?
So it's just a lot of overburden, which means it's really difficult and expensive to get down to address it.
Right.
Right, so. That would be my recommendation, just do a small feasibility study and then we can see if we can come up with some ideas, some ballpark
How's
costs.
the
And then we can make a
floor,
decision.
timber, is that pretty well
It's,
chewed up too, or from the?
it is, it's pretty scoured.
The sidewalls look great, the
Yeah,
concrete
sidewalls
looks
look great.
great.
Just the top and the bottom.
But
Top
yeah,
and
the top, yeah, but and the issue is like that, the way that was constructed, it is definitely old because we're looking at the rebar dates, pre 1950.
Yeah.
Looking at the shape of the bar. But there's significant corrosion in spots on that box where just tell Jim, it's really hard to stop the corrosion once it's started into the bar. So you can't, there wouldn't really be like a shotcrete, kind of rehab option that wouldn't necessarily work. You'd have to come up with something that would have its own structural integrity. The only thing is then, I think to do that, you gotta choke the culvert down to make it work, but like I said, go through the process and see how it looks, but the culvert itself, Jim was kind of saying that the end walls, like the soil is moving, and whenever the end wall was built, the head wall for it, it does not appear to have rebar in it. Looks like it's mostly just concrete. There's a bunch of gabions in around it. I think the gabions are what's actually holding the slope together.
Yeah, so what we did back in probably 06, I'll say, because the bank was slumping down. Because the guy around started doing this, we took gabion baskets and stacked it on top of take a chain link fence
Yeah.
and like a box, and it's 4-sided, the two ends are like roughly 3 by 5 by 3. In that area, they come in different sizes. And it's you fill it with gabion stone. Gabion stone is about a 30 to 50 pound rock. Okay, you fill it and then you literally flip the top over and you wire it together and you stack them like building blocks. Okay, that lets the water pass through it, but it also acts like a retaining wall. So we did that back then to keep the hillside from slumping down. But gravity just keeps pushing. So that's what's going on. I was there in 2019. I knew there was some issues then, but wasn't that severe. I went back out again this year to review the site. It's grown. It's not like it's rapid, but it's something we're going to address. And I thought extra money could go towards replacing that.
The only thing was the meeting, they were talking about using extra ARPA funds for buying and working on the cabins.
It's budgeted though for next year. Is there money in the budget for?
Well, there's money in the budget this year, Brian.
It could be encumbered for
I
that.
think, I was gonna say, I think there's been a cabin in the previous like 2 budgets.
Yes, yeah, it's likely, I don't know if we're gonna order it. And have it encumbered, finally ready to be delivered, I don't know, but. Well, the roads gotta go.
Well, I think at some point you guys should look at, for at least for Honda, instead of just, having a budget item for a cabin, put it into a capital project.
That's the
for
plan.
Honda.
Oh, that's, yeah.
That's already written somewhere.
Okay,
It's not happening in November, but eventually, Alhambra Upwards will have its own capital project, because,
Yeah.
doing it in this piece is not.
So getting up to speed, the board voted not to use any of the ARPA money on,
No, 750 for every.
oh, 750, okay,
The balance is about 375,000.
okay, so it's the balance we're talking
We're
about.
just
So the
using it-
750 is into 28, but, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sooner or later, we gotta do this work. If that budget is
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
really
no,
been-
that's great.
addressed at all. You know, as a central project, it just hasn't been talked about, but yet. I think we've talked about it here, but I mean, it just continual deterioration and sooner or later, either you fix it or. Complicate it or. Yeah. Have a bigger issue, you know.
Could we also fund this from the highway, new highway capital project?
I don't think we're putting money in there yet. I
Not
know we
yet.
created them,
We can
A
do it
cop-
here in the next
yeah,
person.
but I don't, that's something the board would have to see
Mhm.
what's up at the end of the year.
You can put money into
I don't
the
know what that means, just.
capital project and that can be moved,
And it
where if you
needs-
put it in reserve, you know.
Yeah, but I
dedicated
want to
to
say
that.
what it meant.
Okay,
I don't, is that in,
that's,
I don't know if it made it to the final version, did it?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think it even came out of the parks line at budget time.
I think it's left that way to be flexible.
Okay. There's money there,
That's
in there for next year for upland.
So MRV's gonna do
I
a
think
feasibility
something's
study
okay
or?
with that.
well, that's,
It's gonna be the road
there's
for-
nothing been determined yet.
Right,
Oh, okay.
That, I mean,
we're just talking about it right now. That's.
Yeah,
but
this
that
is-
would have to be, that would have to be done, yeah.
Right,
But that could be paid for through that ARPA money too, because it's part of, part of that project. Central project.
Right.
Allergies.
so that was the discussion to see if we would consider moving. All of it, some of it to the, you know. The public works, just look at the, see what you guys think about. Could we use that one for that and take it back to the town board?
I suppose what could be done is that we could recommend using a piece of it to do that study, which I don't know what the cost, but it's.
Not a terribly expensive.
Just the hydraulics.
Not even, I mean, you're really just looking at someone. Spend some time to go ahead and reach out to vendors. Put some information together, try to figure out. General options, that's all. So. That's not a really big.
Let's find somebody to walk through that 120 feet north.
Yeah, Jim already walked through, so he's got some good pictures, so I mean, there's enough there, you know, to at least reference to any of these entities. So, but you know, it takes time to reach out to people for span bridges, you know, put together cost estimates for abutments and all that stuff, so.
Well, again.
Not a
for a
major
conversation, you see,
No, I think it's good up.
you know. To recommend to the town board, do we use it all, do we use some? What's left again?
375. It was 1.15 million total,
If this goes,
which we had already. Yes,
if this goes through, which they, I don't think they've done the door part of it.
We haven't got to that part yet, no, nothing, we haven't got to the, right, well, part of, do we want to talk, are we done with this section here, Jerry?
Well, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna recommend to the town board?
Right, do you want a resolution in November, or do you want?
Well, we
Making
write-
any recommendations? Special.
Well, I know that we are under some pressure from the feds to say how you're going to use that money. We haven't used any of it yet. There are time limits on it and, you know, there is reporting done quarterly, I believe.
I don't know, there was,
Yeah.
something was due earlier this year that we had to report what we were gonna do.
Yeah.
Doug already made sure that we had our report in on time. I think. He said 2024 and 2026.
Yeah.
26 is when you have to use it up. It's 24 when you have to make a final decision on. Or permit,
So
They do those.
can't remember what.
if I could run it though,
Yeah. We could make a recommendation and put a resolution there to put towards a capital project or town board.
why don't we put a resolution together to commission the study
That's what I say.
and then And we decide
Someone
based
make
on
cost.
what we do with the rest of
Because
the
there
money.
is.
See what can be done and how much it would cost. Right, based on the study.
One of our, we have a capital project for ARPA, it's like the umbrella capital project, it's age 33. There is a suggested resolution for November to put the ARPA money, which is sitting in the general fund right now, into that capital project, which is, you know. So
That's the big thing, really.
it's just to move it out of the
You can-
general
yeah,
fund,
you can
put it in
move
the
it.
capital project.
You
So
don't want to put it into any kind of reserve or anything like that.
no, this was to avoid that,
Yeah,
to put it in the capital project instead of. Fund.
that's a good idea.
Because it's not supposed to sit in the general fund. I don't
So you want to
understand.
recommend that?
So,
Yeah, the study,
study, yeah, see what can be done, what it take to fix it, how much it would cost.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming MRB is going to be doing the study or
Yeah,
recommending that we do the study. Can you have it before the 10th?
I could
Yeah.
pay for highway engineering, I don't know the amount I have in house now, but I could just say highway engineering for the house.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you
I
wanna
don't,
make a
I know there's money that lines go, I don't know how much it's more, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll try it.
See, study, study to buy the study.
You're boring me, it should just be right there.
Okay. We're on to the
But don't forget, you get a drop on Friday, aren't you?
Yeah, that's why the 10th is.
well, yeah. Well, actually, discussion of CPA and presume the fire here, so.
Yeah.
We did have a good talk with people that Jewel a few weeks ago, a couple of weeks last week, I guess it was. And they presented a timeline and other comments. Sarah's gonna eloquently present. Right?
Oh,
Ah.
So, yeah, so we met with them last week on the 25th and, us along with. Should I write down? who's
I'm sorry,
on
Sam,
the
we could be with,
side? Jewel Assets,
okay,
they're the company we're working with to explore our options for community choice package. The town hasn't spent any money and we're not going to until a point. You know, in the future, if the board decides to actually contract with an energy supplier, at this point, the job that CCA is, that Jewel Assets is gonna do, is they're gonna begin to. Explain to our residents what this is. You know, why are we doing this? What does it mean? How would it work? What would it do? Would it do anything to their bills and all that? But also to explain, we haven't done anything yet, that we're just looking into it. Jewel Assets is responsible for all the public outreach, education, workshops, meetings, what have you, and they're gonna begin that on November 15th. They're gonna work with us through me, I guess, to help plan all that stuff. Just a combo of all kinds of outreach, because as you know, we all get our news in different ways, so they're going to try and cover all bases, social media, website, newspapers, radio, everything. At the same time, they're also working with the city of Canandaigua, Brighton, Victor, I thought I wrote it down, maybe it's on a different page. Henrietta, Richmond. And those are all RG&E. At the same time, they're also working with some national grid communities, Rush, Kendall, Geneva, and Richmond. So they're working with all of these municipalities all at once. So there's gonna be other communities getting similar kinds of outreach at the same time. They're gonna do outreach for at least a couple of months, probably a little bit longer. And then sometime in late winter, early spring, they'll put out an RFP from the town to potential energy suppliers. And we should by March or April or so have some proposals. And then that's the first option for a decision to be made. doesn't mean that they have to, that the board has to make a decision when we get the proposals back.
Mhm.
They only, it's just if they like it, if it sounds good. Now, the chances are we're probably wouldn't be interested if it's not a money saver for residents, you know. But in the past, I know with other communities, sometimes they've gone out to bid more than one time, more than one RFP process. Like if you get it back in March and it's a really good savings and everybody likes it, you can move forward. If you don't like it, you can say, well, try again. And they'll go out again.
Are they gonna be explaining kind of what happened where there were the failures in these other communities?
It wasn't a failure of the CCA program, it was a failure between RG&E and the energy supplier. And it wasn't. And yeah, I'm sure that we're gonna have to come up with a way to explain all that, because people around here are gonna ask.
Yeah, we asked that question of them during that call, and then they indicated that they had sessions with people and explained what happened,
Yeah,
that it wasn't them, it was RG&E, it was a combination of
it was like,
estimated readings and the lack of sending those out to people. And the actual supplier was in some place in there that someone dropped the ball.
well,
It
there's
went
two
for months
separate
like that.
problems.
Yeah.
There's RG&E's own billing
RG&E said
issues
their
which have
issue.
nothing
Is
to do with
that why
the
we
energy
got like
supplier.
crazy bills?
Yeah, I actually did the math, because I was like, that's not right, that's not true, you're saying something wrong, but then I actually went back through, because you know, you can look up the records of your usage and your
Yeah,
kilowatt
yeah.
hours, and I actually added it all up.
Yeah, you're like,
This is right,
oh,
it's just 4 months.
I've had a RGB vacation for 4 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a whole separate issue, but RG&E got fined for it, I guess, and our timeline is kind of working out to the point where they've implemented some sort of a fix, apparently, that they're gonna have that resolved by the end of the winter. I don't know if that means hiring new people to fix their billing problems, I don't know what it means, but apparently, according to Jewel, they've been working with RG&E, and RG&E says they're gonna have all that sorted out by the time we're ready to do any changes, if we're gonna do any changes. But then there was the other issue with the energy supplier that the city contracted with, you know, they went out to bid with an RFP, they accepted a proposal from the supplier. They also did something wrong.
Yeah.
And it happened at the same time.
Yeah.
Which caused problems on problems. There were also issues with separate solar energy suppliers that didn't have anything to do with the CCA. There's, you know how you all get the mailings?
Yeah.
From other like green energy companies that want you to use them as an ESCO. Well, there were people using them outside of the CCA program on their own energy bills, and there were problems with them too. So it's kind of like this whole compounding issue, different problems affecting people all at the same time, all related to energy, which is unfortunate.
Which makes me very reluctant to move forward at this particular
I would
moment.
have thought that decentralizing the energy industry would result in confusion and problems.
But ESCOs have been around for a long time and they can work well when. So. It's not a new idea. It's just the bulk buying for us that has potential to be really big. And until the problem started in the city, they were saving money on their bills every month predictably. So that's the point. But obviously, again, nothing has been decided. Nothing ever has to be decided. If we go through this whole process and nothing looks like it's gonna be a cost savings and we don't wanna do it, we just don't do it.
They
It's an
said that
exploration.
they would have, they go out on social media, our social media communications, and have presentations at town hall.
Yeah.
Over the 60-day period, but the 60-day period was kind of
It's a minimum.
it's a minimum, it's
It can be
really
more.
to be constantly fielding calls, any calls that come in, can go directly to them, they can answer the questions, because they're the experts, I guess, so. But there would be, the ability, they'll explain the benefits and explain the issues that occurred that Sarah was just talking about. This is what they told us, so, they were tentatively talking about launching it in July of next year, so. If you work through that timeline, that would be, the first time you'd actually see anything from them, and. no
But that's
commitment
all
on the town's
hinging
part.
on the town board
Yeah.
saying, yes.
Oh,
go
yeah,
forward.
that's if we go ahead with it. But we're not spending any money. they're doing all the outreach, all of the research, all the presentations, whatever. And it is an opt-out program, but everybody would be in the program unless you decide to opt out, and opting out can be done at any time. You know, if you're in it, you opt out a month later if you don't like what you see or any period of time, so.
Yeah, or if you opt out and then 2 months later, your neighbor keeps showing you their bill, and there's savings you want back in, it's just another click phone call or.
Just seems like it's, the whole program is a lot of flexibility for the end
Yes.
user, so.
Yeah. And the reason we do it as an opt-out is because it's a bigger savings, like you can't get, you're not gonna get as good a rate from the energy suppliers if it's an opt-in. Yeah. So,
It really just affects the cost of electricity delivery still through RG&E,
Yes.
and those numbers don't change. That affects by RG&E, so it's really that second half of the bill of usage. How much
Yeah.
power you use, so.
RG&E will continue to push the energy to your house, it's just where they're getting it from changes. What else about that? So, yeah, so on November 15th is when you'll start seeing stuff going out to the public. It'll either be, information they put together and give it to me, and I'll put it on our Facebook website, whatever. Or they'll generate some of it on their own, and they're gonna work with us before they send anything out to make sure that we like what it looks like, we like what it says and all that.
How far along are some of the other towns?
They're all starting around the same time.
So it'd be the cooperative effort. would be-
Because their RFP is not just for us, it's gonna be a rate based on the population of
Get you
all of us
hopefully about
together,
right. Yeah.
which makes us a bigger
Mhm.
Get more buying.
group, so we,
Yeah.
it'd be better than if we were just doing it by ourselves.
Sure.
It just so happened that the city needed to do it again anyway, after they dropped their last supplier.
I mean, it wasn't clear whether they would, well, I shouldn't say it wasn't clear. I don't think the city is gonna have as much outreach to the public as we
It's-
would, or these
they
other
would- Yeah,
towns,
they won't have to, because
because they've been through it.
they've
It's
already
more-
explained the program, this is just like, a new product, or a new person buying the product, same thing, just start over again.
Mhm.
So there's nothing for us to decide. I mean, it's gonna be based on what we hear back from people and the presentations and the public feels about it.
A lot of this is just explaining what it means, and why we're doing it. So that if the board decides to go forward in the spring, when it actually happens in July. People, notice it, some
Won't
people
be
may not
surprised.
notice.
Yeah.
Hopefully, most of them or some of them at least will notice. There will be people who don't know, there will be people who call and get mad at us, there will be people who don't understand. But that's why that company is working with us. So
And
we
that
can
those
just
calls to
say,
Jen, because she used to get people complaining.
maybe one person.
Yeah.
There's an offshoot to this, there's also there that if you get into a program like this, you score points on the climate smart communities.
Yeah, so it's like a bonus.
Grant money for other
Potentially, yeah.
areas.
If we go through with this and we move forward and the board says, yes, we want to buy energy from this supplier. Participating in this program gives us points toward the Climate Smart Communities grant program.
Mhm.
Which is really a whole list of grants that become available to us, or that we might have added points towards just by being a participant in the CCA. So there's potential for us to get funding to do other projects in the future because we participate in this. But obviously, the biggest benefit is that residents get a cheaper electricity bill, and the town as a customer, an energy customer, we get the same benefits.
Okay.
So it'll save our own energy bills or our own energy usage in the town.
Unless we have to.
Make it work for businesses too, or is it up to 50
Small
people?
businesses, yeah, not big.
50 employees.
Active is out.
Huh?
Active is out.
That's small.
I don't know which building might be out. I don't know if it's building size, energy usage or
That's a
what.
good question.
But before we started, we said, can we as an energy customer be a part of this? Do we get to have our bills reduced too? We said yes.
What is your electric bill?
A lot.
I'd have to look.
There's literally like 17 of them on the list.
Well,
I was just saying, no, I'm saying right here though.
I had to look up on the RGB account, hold on, tell you, I don't know off the top, because I also the bill is close to Kate, Kate puts there.
It's thousands.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Thousands
sure.
of them.
I always went thousands of electric, but I don't know what's the building cost.
Yes.
I don't know, maybe,
Would have been more if we hadn't put in that chicken coop.
that's right.
Right,
Natural lighting.
you can always shut it down.
Well, it's a lot
Solar
more
on top of it.
Some solar panels and very.
Why not?
That's all they.
No.
There. They use them.
Have that conversation.
Money savings, right?
All right, any other comments or questions on that? Now we move on
Thanks,
to
sir.
County Road 28 sanitary sewer. Is this some of the stuff you sent out?
Yeah,
Greg,
this is
yesterday, or-
printed off some stuff that Brett sent out.
Yeah,
Yes,
There you go.
so some of that is,
it's the financial area too.
yeah, this is some head scratching of the district. So it's, few different things. There was another map too that kind of outlined like the,
Maybe it's on the. It'll look right.
that's okay.
I thought
Like I
it's
said,
both off.
Jen, we're good.
Uh,
You have any one of
it's not necessarily like super critical, to kind of follow along, but. All right, so we're kind of jumping into this, you know, we're trying to develop the PER, the map plan report, you know, together. Some things that are kind of coming up is, things that we'll need to clarify with the county. County asked us to extend the sewer district to the south towards the Goodman Apartments, to eliminate kind of like a core area that would have been created from our original district boundary.
the what area?
A gore, like a gap. A gore area. Quite,
Could say gap.
here's,
North
well, I know,
side
but
lane.
here's an interesting, gore anecdote. There was actually a gore piece of
Well, hang on.
property between the town of Penfield and the town of Webster that neither municipality owned. That was awesome. It was so cool. We had to put a sewer through it, but I was like, I'm gonna put my flag there and we call it
Yeah.
town of Hotel. It was like 30 feet wide or something, you know, it's just a random little spot.
Our own country.
Everyone's definition of their property, whatever, just had this gap, so. It happens because, you know, when we do this, we're creating two-dimensional. Spaces that are really over a curved object, right? So, you know, if you remember when you were in geography class when you were a kid and they had that weird cut up. Version of the globe. I think that's part of the way some of the stuff happens, you know, there's. Anyways,
To say.
Measurement on ground is different than measurement on.
I want
right,
all of our maps in the future to be in globe form.
yes, yeah, well. Tie this up or whatever.
That'd
you
be
know.
great, thanks so much.
All right, so some of the cool things that are on here that, or were on here in the colored version that you can't really see in the black and white.
Well, I think somebody said some
Just
special
like-
drawings over
Like,
here.
geez, Brian,
I wanna say cheese track.
you could print it yourself. All right, so the county asked us to extend our district further to the south. The only issue I see with that is that, you know, if you can look at my map. Right about here is where I think we had originally thought about running the sewer down to for gravity. And then we were really just gonna leave this part not sewer per se. Cause there's really there's no EDUs here. There's nothing here. So, but the county's asking us to put in like, you know, and the sewer's tip too, because there's the sewer on this side goes that way. This would tip and go back towards our pump station.
Moving away.
Yeah, because
Down
the
at
high
the
point, yeah, the high point kind of, you know, would end up being somewhere right around here roughly. But
Just how. How much differences or in elevations that like really deep or is it?
No, I mean, I think we're basically thinking that like, if we were to connect this sewer with this sewer, there's really the potential that you might even be able to, in the event where the pump station wasn't working, like the water could actually push that way.
I was also wondering, I think
It would also be, be in a surcharge condition, but that would give it a relief point.
Why did they want us to add it?
Because it would eliminate the gore
yeah, the
section between their district, their existing district boundaries. It's tough, but I wanna go back to talk to them because there's only like, I think there's like 4, maybe 5 potential EDUs that are in here.
It's like an raise. The cost.
Yeah, it would change the cost a little bit. I mean, obviously, anytime you change the denominator, right? And it impacts them. So. I want to see if they would allow like grinder stations for those 5 to have them tie in. Just because if they're in no man's land, it just doesn't make sense to run, 2,000 feet of sewer. I mean, 2,000 feet of sewer is probably, that's $400,000 for 5 units. It doesn't make sense. It makes more sense down here because there's more density.
This, what they've added on here is 2,000 feet.
Yeah, there's about 2,000 feet from here back to here.
That will it always be no man's land, I mean, especially if it's certain.
You,
I mean,
you
I
have the ends of Parkside Drive are already service going down Parkside, so those areas are already they're closed in.
But I
So
mean,
it's
we
really just
also-
these few lots that are over here. that
We
just-
put sewer where we want builds to go, basically,
I agree,
that's
but
the
then-
spot that makes sense to have. building.
Perfect, so if you're gonna do that, then take that $375,000 of ARPA money and put it here, not someplace else.
That would cover it.
Because you got $400,000 of sewer that's going in for 4 or 5 lots, I mean, it's $100,000 per lot, it's. It would normally, that would be a no-go on a district formation.
Mhm.
So we need to discuss that with the county, and then. Some of the other things that we'll want to discuss with the county. Revolves around the potential for the flow study. And we don't have the other map, but I kind of walk you through it a little bit, even just looking at this map. Right now, there's a sewer that runs down Parkside Drive. That connects into a sewer that's on State Route 32. This leg that runs down County Road 28 also cuts cross lot over to State Route 32. And then it ties into the same place where that Parkside Drive ties in, and then it goes to a metering manhole at the city. So there's a partial flume, so there's a point that's already being metered. Some of the things that we're trying to get from the data from the county is that flow meter data. And then also get the information from the new pump station on the fire hall. Oh,
It's
yes,
just easier so we all follow the
Yeah.
colors. That's what I'm trying to say.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm glad.
So- no. So,
Trying to give Jim one crop.
Well,
if we know what the pump station is delivering. And then we know what the meter is, the resultant part of the sewer system that is left over is a really, really small finite area. So there's very limited connections, and if we can get the information from the water meter data, it gives a little bit of idea of like water usage, which would be extrapolated to sewer demands, right? So basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to build the picture through the negative. If you can follow that idea, instead of just going in and trying to do the flow study. I already sent Jim a quote for what it would cost to just rent the meters. The flow study is gonna be, it would be a pretty big ticket to do the flow study, because just installing and running the meters is almost 27 grand. Because you gotta run it for like about 3 months, so. And then on top of that, I would have some time to program for a little bit of survey, and then we'd have to, write a little report. So what I'm trying to do is get the county to agree to that memo, that hydraulic memo. With the other information, and maybe they can forego the flow study. That would save like I said, we'll probably say like 50 grand.
Oh, the conclusion, which I didn't, they didn't read every single line in there.
I was gonna say, you're really fast reading.
Well, I've read some, but. Capacity is a multiple of what. Is gonna be presented, so I
Mhm.
mean. You'd think that they'd say, yeah, okay, but
Right, and so, when you look at Parkside Drive. There's some interesting nuances there. The first stick of pipe that comes off of 332 to Parkside is a 10-inch line. Then the rest of it is 8. The only problem is the whole sewer was laid out as a 10-inch line. And I think somebody switched it to an 8. And laid it in at the same grade.
Interesting.
It's a theory, right? Because like all the grades that are there make sense for 10-inch pipe, but they don't make sense for 8-inch. So
So
it's
that might need.
the only thing that seemed to make sense, someone, made that quick call, like, oh, you only need an 8, okay, just put an 8 instead of putting in a 10 or whatever. Someone want to save some money, I don't know.
Well, they put text, is it flat?
The 10 is fine, but see, you have to understand what the minimum slope on an 8-inch is 0.4. And then the minimum slope on a 10-inch is 0.17. So it gets, you can go much flatter with a 10-inch on the minimum slope to get the correct velocity versus an 8-inch. So all it means is that, sewage moves very slowly through this section. And then it throttles its particular capacity. Now, the section that they want us to tie into is only 8-inch. The interesting part is the relative capacity of Parkside and County Road 28. They're almost identical for the most part. And then everything that is controlled in this area is actually controlled by the pipe that goes across 332. That's the limiting segment. So some of the things that we kind of talked about doing is picking up points for these the existing sewers, because right now we're just using the record information. Which it's good as a desktop and it's initial, but now we're starting to get closer to making like real decisions. I think might be worth the effort to go through and pick up those points. There's roughly about 50 manholes we'd have to survey. So it's just something I would probably have included in the flow study. If we were gonna go down that road, but if we don't, then I'd like to try to do that as
that's
well.
up to the county though, whether we do it or don't.
For the flow study, yeah, that'll be up to the county, we're not, they have to agree to it, but I'm just saying for even what we're doing, it wouldn't be a bad idea just to go out and survey the manhole, so we have these reaches identified.
I have pretty good data. Accounting that's already on the panel, so maybe we will share it.
We have, I think we have some of the GIS, but the GIS doesn't match up with the record drawings. So, and I think some of the record drawings span, such great dates that there's different datum that's referenced. Because they switched in 88 to datums changed at that time. So I think pre-1988 has different datum.
Greg, that Parkside Drive manhole, is that a terminal manhole that ends currently?
Parkside Drive, the sewer goes down Parkside Drive and then it cuts in
But
through
it starts,
Candlewood Apartments.
starts up by 28 or somewhere in that stretch.
No, it starts over by 332 is the low
Yeah.
point. And it comes
Okay,
across.
where's it go up Parkside? Where's it end on Parkside or doesn't?
It doesn't really end on Parkside because it doesn't always, it doesn't come to 28.
No.
It just goes to.
Okay, and you're gonna tie into
It goes
that.
to Candlewood and it goes to Paul.
My
Trout.
thought being that if that doesn't have a lot of flow, what you're adding here is gonna provide a flushing effect.
Yeah, I tried to sell that to the county, they didn't necessarily buy into it.
Did the issues you were talking about with the pipes on Parkside, does that have any impact on future development? They're putting that apartment.
Yeah,
complexes
everybody is impacted by it because it's just limited capacity when you put the pipe in flatter than, it's typically the minimum slope.
in.
You don't get the right velocity, which
Yeah,
means stuff settles out.
Edgeworth's right here.
It's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone will,
This is right in the fence.
everyone will
Yes.
will be impacted. I think at some point, someone's gonna have to go back and probably replace that wood fence line. At one point, I thought, the way Derek had explained, we thought it was, might be one segment, so I was like, if it's like 300 feet, we'll replace it, like, I don't, that's the easy one. But, it's, it's like the whole end is all, 8 inch, so, it's kind of one of those things where.
Will that impact Edgeware's ability to build?
It'll be a point of concern for the county always. Everyone will have a concern because you're tying into a flat sewer and the flatter sewer has less capacity. I don't know if, can you get your emails or no? You'd have to. Okay. There, because Derek had some math, like a bunch of pen scratching on it. We actually went through and calculated the theoretical capacities for each of the different segments, so you can see how it's kind of really choked going across Parkside until it reaches the 10 inch, and then that 10 inch ties into a much larger.
I thought the county already did a study on Edgemere and the city to do.
They might have, I don't know, but I'm just saying, I'm just telling.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's been
Not
done.
saying that engineer can't happen, I'm just saying that if they tie in, it's a flat sewer, there's limited capacity.
Well,
Okay, no,
they are going to tie.
Yeah.
yeah, see, it's going forwards.
Right. Yeah,
Why are they not part of the units, the edge unit, why are they not part of the unit calculations?
because they don't benefit for anything that we're doing.
Okay.
If they benefit from what we're doing, then yeah, but. The way the special districts work is essentially anyone who's in the district has to benefit, and everyone that benefit has to pay.
So you're not considering replacing the 8 inch with 10 inch, correct?
No, I mean, not because it would be, there's about 2,000 feet, so I mean, again, that's probably $500,000 at least,
Okay.
all right there. Just to replace it, so, just for us to have a shorter force main discharge, that makes sense.
Where does the 8 inch start in Parkside?
It's the first stick after, so there's like one
Oh, yeah.
stick of like 30, there's like 300. I think the first stick is somewhere between 300 feet to 250 or something like that. Then that next manhole, everything else is all 8. So I don't know, it's just a weird one.
How long has it been in the ground? Maybe
Parkside, I mean, Parkside's not that old. I mean, it's probably done in like
Yeah,
I
from the 90s, 'cause
think a lot of that actually some of this got finished in the early 2000s.
That's right, because they didn't finish Parkside all the way.
Yeah,
here then, so
Yeah.
it must have been like 2001.
I just remember Savage working on it, that's all I know.
So,
Yeah, they didn't, Parkside didn't connect to 28 initially.
Right. So, anyways, so that's basically kind of it in a nutshell. So, like I said, looking at, the amount of gravity sewer that we're running on County Road 28, just trying to mitigate that so the cost doesn't, continue to grow. And then, if we get the county to agree to take on the flow and the capacities, the relative capacities of this area, then, we can probably skip that flow study. It does look like, looking at our total build out, we'd probably run this with a 6-inch force main from the pump station. But initially it'll be running at the low end of the velocities to start with, and then upsize the pumps at some point in time for full build out of the potential district. So that's kind of where we're at. We're like I said, we're making some progress, trying to work it through with the county. So Miguel it's been very helpful. And I think it's been good thus far. One thing we did catch here from Tim though was, I guess they don't really feel like they're included in some of our correspondence as it relates to our planning board. To know what's going on with like some developments like in the downtown area. So that was just one of those offhand comments that I just don't. I explained to Derek, just explained to him, we just don't. We probably don't have the engineering reports for some of these developments, because they're only concepts. So it's not really. It's not really.
Every application.
Yeah, no, I know. It's kind of one of those things where it was just one of those off-key little comments, whenever that comes through, you're like, you want to know exactly what it was and then try to figure out why, they're not getting information or if there's something going on, so. I'm just figuring
the
it out.
Edgeware's land, one of
Yeah, they're the only one about
solid.
detail.
Right.
I mean, you have the landings in that area, but that's all schematic, sketch.
But through our efforts, we also confirmed with the county that Fire Hall Pump Station isn't operating correctly, so. They are looking at doing some modifications to Fire Hall Pump Stations.
Just upgrade those pumps.
As
Well,
Yeah, we're gonna downsize those pumps.
why, too much?
Yes. They're pumping like probably almost 1,000 gallons a minute, and they're running way off on the right hand side. 'Cause
Oh, so they're.
Someone-
is way off.
I think it was supposed to be an 8-inch force main, but then someone installed a 10-inch, so like solar tons.
It's
I mean,
opposite
so-
problem from what.
right,
Going back.
yeah, it's just like one of those things where like.
When Center Point wanted to keep building out, part of it was they had to pay to upgrade this pump
Okay.
and force main in order to meet the capacity. Okay, so they put in new pumps and force main. And whoever did the calculations. What's going on is it's not efficient. We're too far, like Greg says, you're too far to the right.
Yeah,
So now you're not getting the. Let's say you want to pump 1,000 gallons a minute. But you're pumping way more than that, it's costing you so much more wear and tear on equipment and energy. usage, where if you had the right pump, you would not necessarily have these
You
problems.
can't slow the pumps, right, like that, one.
yeah,
No, they're,
They're
the
not-
colors are built
Yeah.
for,
yeah, those pumps aren't really built for VFDs, so. I just thought, I was like, you might wanna just try to see if you can get a single jockey pump in and then, you know, mitigate the damage to the older pump versus just pulling the older pumps and trying to go downsize it, cause it's still. I guess apparently the old 6-inch force main's there and the 10-inch is there, so,
I can see that, yeah.
they've got both at their disposal. But it just sounds like they're running too far on the right or captating the pump, so. Like I said, they're pumping about 1,000 gallons a minute, which would create some potential issues with capacity down on 332, because there are segments that are like, you know, they're rated for around 1,600 gallons a minute.
Basic surcharge system,
Yes,
you know, we should like open the floodgates real quick and dump it fast.
yeah, exactly. So they're slugging sewage through the system. Now, obviously with full build out from this district, I mean, who knows when that actually occurs. You know, our pump station will actually cause some minor surcharging of either point that we would discharge to. But I mean, that's full build out, so that may never happen, you know. And, you know, we may also be overestimating our full build out, so, you know, who knows? But it's at least good to understand that, you know, we had to upsize the force main from a 4 to a 6 and then, you know, prepare for that eventuality. So coming along.
Good.
I have a follow-up question. So are we interested in sending out a letter and survey to everyone in the district like we did with the other 2 projects in Cheshire and to see what the real.
Didn't we send a letter out to invite them to the public hearing?
Yeah.
Yes, which we did with the other 2 also, and then we sent,
With the
no,
other
then we sent individual letters to every property owner with a survey and asked them to tell us. Are you interested in doing this? Here's the predicted price, you know, what is your influence? It's basically yes, no. They, you know, if you get more money in the future, you'd be interested, and that's why we didn't go forward for everything that's there. Majority said no before we don't do it. We haven't done that.
No.
And I don't know if we have a number yet,
That's the
PER.
Yeah,
I guess my question is,
it's
do
kind of,
we want
Take
to,
it
and
early.
when would we do it?
it's still early. I'm not sure you need to. I guess my only point being would be is that the informational meeting, I think we gave them a lot of this information. And I think there was, no, I know, but
Yeah.
they were,
Oh, it's funny to know.
yeah,
I hear that.
there's,
Slowly,
I think there was a fairly vocal that I feel it was pretty well represented. You might not need to, I mean, it's obviously the town's prerogative to take those steps if you guys want to.
Well, how far are we from you're gonna actually go door to door with the petition, right?
No, I mean,
No.
some
Well,
of it,
yeah, I know.
Some of your neighbors there that were you know.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is like, you know, because it's gonna go with petition method anyways, and we're already gonna create the PDR, you might as well just create the PDR and do the petition.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, how far are we from that spot? Cause I mean,
Oh,
if you
for
are looking
circulating
for an
petition?
update.
We might have it sometime around the holidays.
That was actually first year,
Yeah.
how they always
Yeah.
said so.
Okay,
So,
Yeah, well, I'm just telling you,
Yeah.
that I think we would have it sometime.
We
around-
want to have something close to the real number in order to.
Mhm.
Run right, mentioned about the water bill. Well, we have to go through farm.
Oh, so I got clear,
They said,
don't-
down it, no,
No,
we're not.
I-
Nudge you down to do it.
no, I just don't, I don't think it's.
It's just, it's.
I think in those other districts, we were trying to decide whether it's.
That was a question.
I think we were, right, and that's why we asked those
Oh,
questions.
you mean otherwise,
Yeah.
okay.
But we had a good turnout. with the
I hear what you're
information,
saying.
So we moved that with PDR,
Some
so
of us-
you know, I would say just. Let's
That's,
do PDR and then. Then we'll go out.
but if it's first of the year, that's.
No, I don't, I think we, but I don't want to
So
say
maybe
before now, because that's just.
I'd
what
like you to go
happens.
door to door December 20th to the 24th, that'd be great.
I know.
So-
You know,
At least, so you know, at the very least, not yet.
Sometimes we wanna ask the county again, you know, do we need, you know, can we avoid running gravity sewer this town park? Will they allow us to have some, a select. Few grinder station connections, just so we don't have to run all that added expense.
Yeah, because that was suggesting we tax price.
Mhm. Yeah,
So we have
exactly.
that answer. Those answers to other questions you had, and you can't really present a number if you.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Okay.
All good stuff.
Moving along, that's good.
You got much to lose to. Or transportation.
Transportation, we're gonna go with we're gonna basically just present it to the. town
Yeah, we'll
board.
give the November meeting, with the handouts, you know,
Yeah,
the drawings, that you,
yeah,
guys
we can
provided.
walk through that narrative,
Yeah.
that kind of came along with it. and
Yeah.
See what the
have
date
a
is.
lot to say today.
Right.
We do want to make sure that on the agenda though, for November 17th.
21st. What? Oh, a presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally Monday of Thanksgiving week. Oh, yeah.
we get 11 by 17 of that.
Yeah.
You should have a PDF.
Okay.
No, it's good.
But you can always scale it down.
It's not all right
did-
here.
Yes, I know, yeah, the town hall center.
Like, Oh, over here. Oh,
Yeah.
this is,
I
oh,
would
this is our
rather-
parking lot. This is our current transfer area.
Oh, I don't.
No,
we
your
asked-
current transfer is up here.
Over here.
We asked for, I know what Terry asked, he wants this, but with the town hall and stuff. on it.
Yeah,
So
that's.
people have it right.
Oh, you want a larger version? Yeah,
So,
scale it
Wow.
down.
uh,
Yes,
That larger.
No, location.
Larger,
yeah, a blow up.
yeah.
It's larger view. Right, so, yeah, this is very different than when you guys were last. One.
It's like we'll call it. Emergency lane / if you're not supposed to be here, you can go around and out.
Restrained.
And then 2 lanes, would be your solid waste, recycling, computer stuff. Then you can leave or you go over to the other building there where C and D and Miles. collect.
If you went, so most people are gonna go into computer, right?
Yep.
How can they get into this if they've done this? first?
They come around and do.
So you,
Over.
yeah, you have, it coming down through here, so you
they
come
come
down
in
here.
here.
Oh, this is an entrance.
Yes,
Oh, okay, I thought it was just from here, okay.
Just allows you to get into the space.
I really like this option that they can come out if they don't need one or the other.
Right.
And if they
This
go around,
is, what is
this
this?
will be.
That's these.
C and
C and
D
D.
buildings.
Each of these buildings, you know, kind of create some interesting dimensions, because these parts are elevated in the middle, these are lower on the sides. and then These have to come out the ends, right? These have to be able to in and out. The ends.
There's a, I'll call it, break room for lack of a better term, maybe bathrooms and the heated space over here, so.
Are we doing scales in there?
Well, we're gonna plan for them. Right now,
Leave space for them, you know.
Right.
we'll coordinate to be able to put on
No.
a scale some sort of.
Drive over skills would be here. If we were to go that route.
That's. Where we have a.
C and D tunnels, this is waste. and stuff.
We don't have, well, under the totals, which would be up here with the garbage.
The other thing, did you mention to them about the meeting we had with Caitlin? About, potential for a, what you call it, for like the garage sale, I think, the.
Oh, swap.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's called upcycling or whatever. I mean, if you do the swap shop, the only thing I would say is talk to Farmington,
Or Victor.
because they built a swap shop. I don't know how utilized it is at this point. I think initially it was something that was really cool, and then I don't know if it's nearly as utilized now. Yeah,
I don't know, I haven't discussed that with you about
Yeah.
that, so.
It's something that could be added in though into the interior
I
right,
just-
or over.
yeah, you can find a spot somewhere
Space,
over
I'm just
here.
wondering,
you know.
space wise, that's something that is potential for the future.
There's a lot of space there. One of the entry point over, you know,
Eric?
at the end, that. This is concept, though, but you really have to look at where we'd enter this thing, because there are some trees right out there, good sized trees that I think are right where that entry is, so it may have to go a little bit more to the south, so,
The other
but
thing,
that's all.
Right.
the other thing for me looking at it, and I'm just seeing this now, that I'm a little concerned about is the traffic back up here.
Mhm.
We want it to back up here and screw up the rest, of you know what I mean?
I believe there's space there to queue, I think 60 vehicles.
Yeah, we said 60 vehicles fit in there, so.
Do we anticipate going a little slower? With 2 lanes instead of a
Maybe I think we should. be
5
more
or
efficient,
6, they do. so-
because we're not,
Yeah, we definitely
Yes,
say.
We've eliminated people backing up.
yeah, we're not backing it up anymore, and we're not diverting between lanes to get out.
Yeah,
And
you pick the right
So-
lane when you pick the lane.
Well,
Signage. Yeah.
No, I mean, I hope you don't get all the grandmas in this one and all, you know.
I know, it's.
Well,
it's gonna be a change.
Manchester, they actually, people don't throw their trash, the employees throw the trash, so I don't know, like, we'd be looking
I
at
would
basically
see
do the
that,
same
yeah.
thing that have employees throw.
So we're,
Well, that's,
so that's the bin, it's gonna be literally ten-ish
Right.
feet with them, it should. Now we're gonna have people stop here, walk up, throw it out, walk back, walk up, walk
Yeah.
back, that way to go.
Right.
I feel like you probably still will initially.
Well,
Well, but if you make
Sit in
it,
the car.
right, but if you make it that, you know, the employees are the only ones throwing, then that will automatically streamline
you
it.
gotta have a car. that's saying
Be real simple, it's like,
stay in
yeah,
the
stay
car.
in your car.
Get out, help throw out their trash if they want, that's not a big deal, I'm just saying.
Right.
Well, because sometimes people are like, it's just this, not just.
Right,
you know.
oh, yeah. Don't throw away that.
Oh, there'll be issues.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be quite.
Well, a big one.
Well,
is,
anything that, when you change
Yeah,
anything, right?
when you change it, I mean, initially it'd be,
Throwing things.
How are we checking them in, so to speak? 'Cause I know
Oh,
we're
that's
talking
so good
about-
question.
Okay, that's still,
that's the term,
yeah.
whether
It's,
it's
if you read-
ID or.
That's not really an engineering,
Well, I'm just wondering like where we would put that, because like, would they need that for access from this point onward, for example, or just this point, or what? Like, yeah,
That's the sort of had that to is, we keep saying the city wants to participate. Get some buy-in from them if they're going to, because we want to have all the same stuff, so.
We
Yeah,
have
some of the stuff is gotta be worked out,
discussed any of this.
no,
I mean, they get their 2 afternoon. Was it second and third or first and, first and third? Second and fourth Saturday.
Second and fourth.
Fourth. But. We haven't discussed any more access to it from the city, but. You know, one of the things that all through this has been. Lacking is really communication from the county and what they see going forward. The Seneca Town Board said, you know,
they've
2
done,
weeks ago.
yeah.
We don't want this thing to go on past 2028. So we tried to build into this the ability to, if we have to haul it farther than out to the landfill. There, you would have access to larger vehicles to haul to God knows where. Or I'll dump it in Bristol Road or someplace like that.
Maybe we should bring it back to New York City since it's from all those chairs.
Well, Staten Island was pretty much already full, right? So.
Well, originally, the county was 72-page report to the county commission, and then they just kind of put it on a shelf. Called for, hub and spoke type of approach to the waste like that, but most of the supervisors didn't, not my town, I couldn't do that in my town, we're going to combine with
Right.
different towns to,
Yeah.
like all municipal waste would go here, the brush and everything would go there. And, they all get split.
Yeah,
Report number one, it just
How much should we have saved for this so far?
800,000.
800,000, and that's obviously gonna be more than 800,000. Do we have any clue?
No, we haven't,
Park at all? What we're
Nope.
talking
we haven't advanced the, our efforts to that point yet.
One conceptual.
Yeah.
Get buy-in from the board, to a
Yeah,
concept,
And then,
start
then we
looking
can, finish off schematic, maybe start looking at some, schematic estimates at that point in time, but then eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to talk about getting into the EDs, that.
And who knows, if we go into CCA program, maybe there's some grant money that be available to help with any differential between what we ask for away and the ultimate cost would be because it comes.
There is money for waste recycling.
it's like the water main runs down through.
Yeah. Yeah, the water main goes up.
It runs over in the back row one side.
It's just for access.
It's sort of a trail.
Yeah, it's not a trail like walking trail,
Yeah.
it's an access trail. So these would just be, you just have some gates here, that's all. Just because they're not utilized.
Sewer runs down next to the water.
Yeah, sewers out.
Where the property lines a little further this way now.
Just it's right about somewhere in here, and it's
There's a property line here and
Dave owns to the right of it, that we own actually that stuff that Chris now, so.
Well, you'll be at the meeting and do a little.
yeah, I do like a little 5-minute explanation of what's going on, so the biggest thing is just let people kind of look at it, digest it. But if we can get any type of, straw poll from the board at that point in time, continue the process, then, I think we will, everyone feel more
Yeah.
comfortable with the next steps.
And more importantly, get tagged by it.
Yeah,
Todd goes, what do you build this? I go, oh, years goes.
he doesn't want to have his own break room.
No,
No,
I don't think he doesn't like gates change.
yeah,
I can work one day in that, and then retires.
Find a way to put a deer stand out there someplace, you might get had that.
Yeah, we know.
I offered to him the first, a few years ago, we were talking about it. He shot it down, told people, call the town, and told them that. I said, well, name it the woodshed. All right, well, we'll present that at
so I
the
think that's,
next board meeting, that's the last item on
Yeah, just yesterday, last month we discussed like talking to DEC over here about the Bill site, road expansion. Myself and Kevin will be talked to them yesterday. That's.
So,
they were like, no,
No,
can't touch that.
we're look, I brought up last month, like town is a place for fill. Okay, we can't, we need a place where we can bring our fill, either on our property, so we're taking someplace where we can, what's gonna happen in the future, we can maintain it. It's a federal wetland bias that really isn't not much use, and then we talked to them yesterday, and they're like, no. They're
Find another spot.
I didn't understand it, well, Kevin pretty much was like, okay. He was done, he's like, well, this is what happened. So Kevin understood what they were saying, I didn't, but it's not happening.
I just think it's interesting, because it's just a bog.
Yeah, but there was a whole list of things she rattled off, and it was unusual for Kevin not to be able to
I know, but
After bad.
No, I know, I actually agree with Kevin, it's like, it's all Phragmites,
Right.
you know, it clearly was like a fog farm of some sort,
So
so,
on the far back.
yeah,
So-
Just growing cuts in the middle.
yeah.
So. We'll have to keep looking.
Well. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff
Yeah,
is
it's
going
like-
here now,
It
but
is,
that's
but
gonna end because
it
it'll be
will
filled.
be filled, you won't be able to take it there, so. Or do we do it? So that's just something.
Well,
I
I got
brought up
75
that line,
acres out
you
here,
know,
so-
For the future, so. We'll figure something out.
Talking about primarily soil.
Gravel products, soil, chunks of asphalt, concrete. Things that,
Do we reuse the concrete?
No. we don't get much of it anyway, it's not like we create a lot. So,
It's just running out of places. to put it.
right,
Yeah, prior,
Once this is done,
prior highway policy was, you know, they just push it out past the barn.
right.
This whole factory down here is all that pushed it, so.
We
And that's,
keep it
that's typical for a lot of places. So it's almost every municipality is starting to look at this, they're understanding they got a problem, so.
When you build this. Is there already plans for using the space that we use now? Wouldn't be.
Yeah, I would probably move all that stuff, which technically is not supposed to be in 100 foot buffer,
Oh, yeah.
so.
You couldn't use some of that area for.
Oh, well, we would probably want, right now, it goes to depression, we can make it level in the area that we've already filled, we couldn't go beyond. So, again, that. A lot of it is materials we take out of the road that are not suitable to be used in a road, because there's no strength to it. There's a lot of stuff we end up trying to find a home for.
oh, there's land out across Buffalo Street Extension. I mean, someday will be used for ball fields or something, but it's a big chunk of land. So
I guess instead of terracing it through cut, I guess you could just terrace with fill.
Well, that's what we mentioned before, there's the fields out there where it slopes, like, can we take our fill, like strip topsoil
Mhm.
and level the ground for the field and put the topsoil back over it. So instead of cutting the hillside and trying to fill. So,
Yeah,
Do we ever sell it?
no, we don't. And part of this is, I don't know much more
can't
where
really,
it came from, if there's any contamination.
yeah,
If we get off someone's yard and there's a septic field we drive through. So it's, I just,
It's not necessarily.
well, it's not, I don't wanna be. Who knows, okay,
Yeah.
I taken the approach, that-
Unknown parentage.
right, so.
Not
I'd rather have it,
registered.
if someone had this in on town, property, how we can deal with it, so instead of being on private property, all the rest.
That makes sense.
once it's on private property. Getting it to there requires you to follow 360, which there's some requirements. Yeah,
Got it.
when you're discussing using the area out here, the bag that. Did they, the DEC, bring up anything about how close we are to it?
No, nothing. She was what, she was out here in 2020, the same person you talked to. She's well aware of what we got out here, you know, but she, like I said, she rattled off a bunch of. I'll say rules and regulations that I didn't understand, because it's what Kevin did, and like I said, I never see Kevin not necessarily. Come away to, like, with the dotted option, he was like, oh,
Nope, nope.
guess we're done. It was a little unusual.
She had the show button.
She did hard. So he tried. And she- Moving on to the next spot.
Okay. I guess we're done there.
Cool.
Okay.